Start. Hello all and welcome to this webinar about how to build a paperless KCC flow. While we wait for everyone to join, a few house rules. We'll do an open Q&A at the end and we will share a recording. So here's how the webinar will be structured. First, we'll be covering the operational and compliance requirements of a paperless KCC flow. Integrated with that, we'll show you a brief paperless KCC case study. Then we will be showing you a live demo of a paperless KCC flow via Leegality. And finally, we'll come to implementing a KCC flow via ULI, after which we'll open the floor for an open Q&A. I'm Aditya, Head of Marketing at Leegality, and my co-host today is Shubhesh, who leads product marketing efforts at Leegality. Before we begin, what makes us qualified to conduct this session? We are currently the platform of choice for banks switching to paperless KCC. Working with our bank partners, we managed to reduce KCC paperwork to 10 minutes per document from days and hours, right? First off, why does paperless KCC make sense? And when you actually see data, it feels like a no-brainer. So in 2024, NABARD did a study where they interviewed farmers who actively rejected KCC despite being aware of it. 70% of these farmers rejected KCC for two reasons, right? One, a long, lengthy, tedious process to actually apply for a KCC. And two, long travel to branch. A long, lengthy, tedious process and long travel to branch. Right? A big Indian bank worked with Leegality to solve exactly these two pain points, building a paperless KCC flow under the RBI Innovation Hub pilot. They saw KCC TAT reduce from days to minutes, about 10 minutes, with no branch visit mandatory, right? In minutes with no branch visit mandatory. So paperless KCC directly hits the reason why most farmers reject KCC, right? Directly hits at the reason. Removes the lengthy, tedious process by cutting it down to minutes, and it eliminates the need for a branch visit. So if you're interested in this outcome, stick around because we'll show you exactly how to implement a system that can achieve this. So when people think of paperless or eSign, they have a particular dream or impression in mind, right? They imagine a system where a customer simply walks in, e-signs in minutes, and the transaction is done. And really, this is the dream. But what people often don't realize and what makes e-sign fail is there is a lot that can actually break this happy flow along the way. The e-sign in like the reality of e-sign in the branch, especially a rural branch, is much more complex, right? There is a lot that can prevent an e-sign from being successful. For example, in the flow on screen, the customer walks in, the e-sign doesn't load due to bad network. They wait 15 minutes, keep refreshing, and it finally seems to work. But then Aadhaar UIDAI is down. So Aadhaar e-sign doesn't work and it fails again. Frustrated with this waiting, which e-sign itself, as we mentioned, is supposed to solve, the branch person justifiably goes back to paper and your paperless is basically dead in the water. In our experience, there are 5 main challenges that banks face in rural e-sign flows, right? One, customer does not have a smartphone. Two, customer lives in a 2G, 3G area, which is very relevant for field journeys. Three, the e-sign provider faces regular downtime. Four, customer does not have Aadhaar linked with mobile or fingerprints are faded. And five, customers are not familiar or are actively distrustful of the digital process. Let's cover these issues one by one, why they arise and how you can fix it, right? So issue one, customer does not have a smartphone, right? This is the most obvious problem because the core of eSign ultimately is an internet-enabled device. So if this internet itself doesn't work, it's just not possible, right? And many lenders just stop here and give up and say that our customers don't have smartphones, right? They don't have the basic device on which you need eSign, so they basically reject eSign. The solution to this problem is simple, right? Make the eSign happen on your agent's device, right? And the only way to make this happen is to have an SDK. Like your eSign system should have an SDK that opens seamlessly in your agent device. We do this regularly for more than 15 MFIs on a daily basis, right? They use our SDK to get eSign done on the device of their field or branch agent, right? So that's issue one. Issue two, and this is very relevant for field-led flows, where your agent is actually going into the field to the customer's place of residence to get the eSign done. Here they have a smartphone, so issue one does not arise. But the connectivity in their area is a 2G, 3G connectivity, so it doesn't work. So you then have to either, again, go back to paper or you have to tell them, hey, let's go to the branch, we have Wi-Fi there. But remember, taking them to the branch is one of the reasons they were very reluctant to get KCC in the first place. One objection we receive when we say that this is a problem is that, look, India is very 5G. So this is really not an issue. But if you see a network map, you realize that all of India is actually not covered, and there are a lot of low connectivity networks still. And the areas actually that are low connectivity have a higher overlap with areas you need to disburse KCC in, right? When you need to issue KCC in. So if you are hoping for a pan-India KCC, you need to have an answer to these significant 2G, 3G edge cases. So the solution here is quite technical, and is technical but simple. Simply test 2G, 3G resilience of your eSign system at your pilot or testing phase, right? Because eSign demos and implementations, the initial go live, often happens with the benefit of your headquarters or your city offices, right? Where you have good Wi-Fi and 5G. So in testing, when we're doing the testing and we do our initial go live transactions, we say, hey, look, it's working smoothly. What we would say is throttle the connection, right? We'll show you how to throttle the connection in the demo, but throttle the connection when you're testing to a 2G or a 3G connection to see if the eSign still works, right? Do this at the testing phase so that when you actually roll it out, you don't face massive failure. So now that's issue 1 and 2, where we fundamentally addressed how to solve the core internet access issue. Now coming to issue 3, you have internet access, but then there is a eSign issue. There's eSign provider downtime, right? And this happens quite regularly, not in a majority of cases, but still quite regularly that it can lead to drop-offs, right? So the solution to this is to build an auto-routing eSign orchestration flow where you have multiple eSign providers connected in the backend. And the system, when a signer wants to sign, will essentially auto-route signers to the eSign provider with the highest possible uptime. We built this system into Leegality, and since we've implemented it, we've seen 80% reduced drop-offs in the eSign process, with a far greater number of transactions being completed within 2 attempts itself. So that's issue 3, a fundamental issue of eSign connectivity. So we've covered internet connectivity, we've covered eSign connectivity. Now let's move on to issue 4. There is internet connectivity, there is eSign connectivity, but there is Aadhaar accessibility issues, right? So either they don't have an Aadhaar link to mobile, or if you're using, say, Aadhaar biometric, their biometrics are faded, right? Their fingerprints are faded. And essentially in this scenario, the 2 most common Aadhaar eSign modes become inaccessible to the signer. So to fix this, there's 2 parts to this. One is do not rely on just 2 modes of Aadhaar eSign, but have a broad-based set of eSigns available. So from Aadhaar face, iris to non-Aadhaar methods like OTP-based virtual sign. Here I want to specifically dive a bit deeper into Aadhaar face sign here, because it's a highly underrated mode of eSign that a lot of lenders are actually sleeping on. With face sign, your borrowers can basically eSign just using their face, right? So the agent opens it on the tablet, the face is scanned, and it matches with the UIDAI database. And that's it. When there's a match, the sign is done, right? So there's no need for an OTP. There's no need for a biometric device. It can happen directly via an agent tablet, right? Already via Leegality, around 27 lakh more and counting eSigns have been done via face sign, one of the fastest growing eSign types on our platform, right? That's the first part of what to do when there's Aadhaar accessibility. But there's a second operational reality to it, right? Because apart from having a broad-based set of eSign types, you also don't want to give your agent control to offer all those broad-based at once, right? So let's say you have, for example, a non-Aadhaar type as backup, right? You've kept it there because you're like, UIDAI might be down and I might need a non-Aadhaar type available. But at the same time, you don't want your field force to try that option first, right? You want them to exhaust all possible Aadhaar attempts and only rely on non-Aadhaar as an exceptional edge case scenario last resort. If you simply have a broad base and you offer all of that upfront, where the field agent can actually choose, they are likely to, in many cases, follow the path of least resistance and actually bypass Aadhaar altogether and go for the non-Aadhaar method, which you have kept as a backup. But for the field agent, it's the path of least resistance, right? Now, how do you solve this, right? So apart from eSign variety, you actually also need an automated cascade system built in, right? So let's look at the example on screen, right? For instance, Let's say you have Aadhaar OTP as your primary type. You set a retry attempt saying that let them try it once. If it fails, let them retry once. And if that also fails, display the backup options like Aadhaar biometric or Aadhaar face sign, right? And you set a number of retry attempts for this. Let's say those also fail. Then you say that, hey, after those fail, then you can show non-Aadhaar. And this you're talking to your system. You're telling your system that when these conditions happen, show a non-Aadhaar. So what you're essentially building here is a cascade that is automatically revealing options based on certain conditions being met. And your field force has no control over this. They simply have to follow the cascade. So you're ensured that, look, majority of your signs will still be Aadhaar. And in your edge cases, the system itself is directing them to the backup, not the field agent. This routing system, what we call Aadhaar first at Leegality, has prevented eSign failure occurring from that first eSign failing more than 33 lakh in more than 33 lakh documents since launch, right? So that's issue 4, Aadhaar accessibility. Now let's come to the final issue. So again, we've covered internet accessibility, very fundamental. We've covered Aadhaar accessibility as well. Now let's come to fifth one, where look, internet is working fine, eSign provider is working fine, there is Aadhaar accessibility. There is an interface accessibility issue as well. Like even when everything else is working, failure can still happen because of this, right? So, and this is because by default, most eSign is in English. And then we say, okay, what's the issue with this? The issue is that in rural India, especially, English penetration is very low. We are often conditioned to think that this number is higher due to our own environment around us, but our perception cannot beat the actual facts on the ground. And for people who are not fluent in English, the eSign interface being in English looks a bit like how this interface we're showing you on screen looks for you. There is a lot of text in an unfamiliar language which you cannot decode, saying something that's clearly important because it's like the gate for a financially valuable transaction. It requires you to click on a lot of buttons that you don't understand. It's how would you feel basically if you had to enter into a financially significant transaction with this type of screen where you don't know what you're reading, you don't know what you're actually signing to. You're made to do a sign, but you don't know what you're actually ticking, signing, and like pressing next on. You would feel like so many borrowers do, and you would actually reject the e-sign process. You'd say, just get that paper which I'm familiar with, right? So to fix this, you need an e-sign process that is vernacular at two levels. One at the document level, where the document itself is in vernacular, and two at the e-sign interface level, where the buttons, the instruction, and consent are all in vernacular. Without this, you will be alienating most, if not all, of your KCC base, and will probably push more people away from actually adopting KCC. So yeah, those were the 5 issues. I've been speaking for too long. Let's actually show you what we've talked about so far, the fixes via a live demo. So I'll hand it over to Shubesh to show the demo.
Thanks a lot, Aditya. Hi, everyone.
Meanwhile, if you have any questions, we will be doing an open Q&A in about 10 minutes. But if you have any questions before that about what I've said or about the demo that Shubesh is giving, please drop them in the Q&A box. We usually take up more than half the questions on the fly as you ask it in the Q&A box.
Great. Thanks a lot, Aditya. Can you confirm if my screen is visible?
Yes, Shubesh, it is visible.
Okay, great. So what we have here is like a mock application that we've made for a KCC loan, and assume this is the application your agents are going to be handling. Your customers are going to be filing an application for a KCC card, and let's say this is that application. And again, just want to clarify again very clearly, this is a mock application we've built just for this demo. So they'll fill this application, they'll submit it, then you'll probably want them to do KYC, right? So they'll do KYC. Once this is done, that is when and this is where the most hassle starts, right? They'll have to keep coming back to the branch, bring documents to inspections. You'll take those documents, inspect, create a form using them, which they'll have to sign. So that takes multiple visits. Now, in the same time, you're collecting those documents, you're verifying them. As soon as your agent fills those data in their app, using the same data, you can, on a click of a button, start the document execution for KCC card. So this legality link will open within their app, or you can even send it to WhatsApp of the person who's applying for this KCC. And this will be an agreement which is fully filled already that they can see from your LOS LMS. You click on proceed, Now you can give them two options, right? Because there's no signing requirement for a KCC, so you can either go for a virtual or Aadhaar eSign. Let's say here we want to do an Aadhaar eSign. I'll click on proceed. So now what I'm going to show you are 3 fraud prevention checks, which are optional. Again, if you want, you can. Let's say if your agent is going in the field and doing this paperwork with the person who's opting for KCC, then you can capture the location at to where this is happening. Or let's say if your customer is coming to the branch, you can ensure the signing only happens within your branch by geofencing the eSign using this. Next is the photos you will collect of the person who's applied for a KCC. You would want to ensure that the same person signs the agreement. So you can do the face capture. Just give me a second. Yeah, so you can do the face capture, and this will do two things. One, it will check if a person is actively present during this eSign journey. Next, it will match the face of the person who's done this face capture against a photo which was already on your file. This could be a photo you've collected during the application stage or during KYC. So this ensures your documents are only signed by a person who's supposed to sign them. Now, depending on the customer, you can offer one of these 4 Aadhaar eSign types: OTP, biometric, iris, or face. OTP, bio, and face are the more common ones that people use for this particular use case via Leegality. Today, I'm going to show you OTP based Aadhaar eSign. So I'll click on proceed. I'll give my eSign consent, and I'll click on sign the documents. This has taken me to this Protean screen. Here, I'll have to enter my Aadhaar number to e-sign this document. So just give me 1 second. I've sent the OTP. I'll just wait for the OTP once. Now let's say this screen wasn't loading. All your customer will have to do is refresh and they'll be taken to CDSL or Verasis. I'm going to show you how that works also. Just give me like 2 minutes. So I've gotten the OTP, I've entered it. I'll verify it. As soon as the server was able to successfully verify my Aadhaar, it's signed the document. And this document will flow back to your LOS LMS, and it will also come to the person who's applied for KCC on the WhatsApp, email, or SMS. So I'll just show you. So yeah, this is my agreement. And as you can see, here is the Aadhaar eSign we just did. And just want to show you audit trail also once before we proceed. This is the audit trail. As you can see, it captures every single detail of the person who's sent the document, which is you as a KCC company, and the person who signed it, along with the voice capture they've done and the location. And even the consent they've provided, that also gets captured. And let's say, because this was an English flow, right? Agreement was in English, the interface was in English. But let's say your customer does not understand English, because as we saw, 3% only people speak English. So if your person, let's say, needs a Hindi document and you have a Hindi KCC agreement, you can change the language to Hindi, and the consent captured in that case would be Hindi also. I'll show you how you can change the interface language now. So how do you set this up? It's quite simple. You go to your legality dashboard. Here you'll have to create a workflow. Let's say KCC demo. In this, you can either pass a PDF which is already pre-filled from your LOS LMS, or you can choose a template. Today, I'm going to show you a template. And even in this template, you can pass the information that this template needs from your LOS LMS. This is my KCC template. Any information I want to pass to this, I can send it from my LOS LMS. Now, next step, you configure the invitees. Here, I just need one person who signs this document. I want to enable both Aadhaar and virtual for them. Aadhaar, I need all. I also, let's say you want to verify their Aadhaar also, so that, I can't sign using somebody else's Aadhaar. So you can put those verifications also. You can verify using their name or any other parameter which UIDAI sends in their Aadhaar eSign certificate. Next is, you can also enable virtual for them as a backup to Aadhaar in case UIDAI is facing a downtime. Now you would want to set up that cascading order, right? Let's say you would want OTP to be the primary way Aadhaar eSign is done. So you set there, you enable this prioritize Aadhaar for invite. You set the order in which you need these different eSign types to come. First, as you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4. So first Aadhaar OTP will come. Once, if this doesn't work, biometric will come. If this doesn't work, iris will come. If this doesn't work, face will come. You can change the order as you see fit, as to whatever your requirements are. And you can also set the number of retries of you want a person to do. Let's say you want person to try 2 times before they switch to biometric. So you can just set this as 1. So they will have to do 2 attempts and then they'll move. And if you want to enable the security features, which I just showed you in the signing journey, you can just enable this security feature and enable any security feature you want, including GPS capture, face match, or liveliness. Once this is done, you'll also have to, let's say this is a Hindi template that we've just made, right? Even though the template was in English, let's assume this is Hindi template that we've made. Now you would want the interface language to be in Hindi also. You just enable this local language button, and here you set a language for the interface as Hindi. And you click on next. This is your agreement. This is where the signatures will come. If you want to change the location, you can also do that. You can just drop it wherever you want. Then click on save. And it's that easy. Once this workflow is done, all you need to do is either integrate this workflow within your LOS LMS or your web application or mobile application, or you can even use it directly from the dashboard. You just click on run. Everything will be already pre-selected for you. As you can see, the template is already set for me. This is my template. You just enter data, whoever you want to sign this agreement, and you just send out an invitation, and that's it. Like, it's that easy. Just want to show you one more screen. So as you can see now, this button says Aage Badhe, because if you would remember, we had set the language as Hindi. Everything that you would see in the interface would be in a vernacular language, including the template if you choose a Hindi template before. Let's say I want to do Aadhaar. I'll do OTP. I just want to show you how automatically backup ESPs kick in. So this is my CDSL screen. Let's say we try this, it doesn't work. So you go back to the link, you just refresh it. You click on Aage Badhe, again Aadhaar eSign, click on OTP, click on Aage Badhe, give eSign consent again. And if you would see, this automatically went to CDSL instead of Protean this time, because system automatically knows that Proteans, we went to Protean, we entered an eSign, but that didn't work. And we've come back to the older legality link, which means there is something not working with Protean. This time, the system will automatically send your customer to CDSL. And yeah, and the person can just enter the Aadhaar and do the eSign in the same way I showed you previously. Is there anything else you want me to show, Aditya?
Thanks, Shubhash. That was great. I think we can go back to the deck. Great. So again, if you have any questions, do drop it in the box below. If you are seeing the recording, then go to the YouTube description. We've given details on how to reach out to us if you have any questions, or you can just visit leegality.com and drop a question on our form. All right. One final thing I just want to end with is KCC. We are seeing in our experience that most KCC implementations, paperless KCC implementations, are being driven in conjunction with RBI Innovation Hub via the ULI interface. All right. So Leegality has an integrate direct plugin in the ULI system. So it makes it very easy to implement Leegality, what Shubhash just showed you, through ULI, right? So you create templates on Leegality, configure the journey on the Leegality dashboard, and then you run the workflow to execute documents. A very simple process. So this is a more technical diagram of how the ULI process works for your teams to understand and scope out how the Leegality ULI integration will work, right? I'm not going to read all of it. We will share this deck with you after. But essentially, you configure everything one time on Leegality, configure that workflow, you'll get access to the dashboard, and your API calls will happen through a ULI authentication, right? So you can contact us to learn more details on how this works and how you can do it. Before we end, of course, quick recap of what we discussed, right? These are the 5 or 6 main causes for eSign failure, right? Especially in rural cases, right? 2G, 3G network, eSign downtime, borrower not having a smartphone, customer not having Aadhaar link with mobile, customer fingerprints being faded, and in English only eSign interface. And we've also given you the solutions to each of these, right? So in case you're evaluating an eSign service, you're evaluating a paperless service, right? This is a good framework to actually evaluate whether it has the features you need that can make your paperless KCC work at scale. And not just KCC, of course, any rural product, right? Even agri loans and things like that, right? You'll face the same issues. You need the same solutions, right? We'll share this with the deck. And finally, just a few plugs before we end. We've also launched a completely new platform at Leegality called Consent In. It's basically a DPDP compliance platform, allowing you to quickly and easily implement consent collection and management in all your lending journeys, right? So you can scan this QR for a demo for Consent In. And we also have started a series of playbooks to give lenders tactical advice on how to go paperless with various key use cases. So we have our paperless gold loan paperwork playbook, our paperless digital, like our paperless KFS flow playbook. And finally, coming soon, I think next week, early Feb, is our playbook on how to implement eSign flows that are accessible for India, right? So some things we discussed in this webinar, we're going to go in detail. We're going to get more technical. It'll be a useful playbook if you want to actually implement some of the things we talked about in this webinar, right? So in case you want early access to this playbook, which we'll be launching next week, you can sign up for our weekly updates and be the first to get this playbook, right? So simply scan the QR, you can fill a form, ask for weekly updates either via WhatsApp or email. What you will get maximum once a week, maybe twice a week sometimes if there's some really key update, is relevant regulatory updates and our analysis of them, the latest product updates, and finally, case studies from other lenders building paperless flows via Leegality. With that out of the way, thank you all so much. In case you do have any questions, do let us know. We will stick around for a few more minutes to answer any questions. And of course, as we mentioned, we will share the recording within the next 48 hours.